session, we will see the remaining physicochemical factors which are going to affect the drug absorption. So this is a disclaimer for the viewers. So learning objectives for the today's module. So after learning this module, you will be able to understand the effect of polymorphism and amorphism on dissolution and the absorption. More than 60% of drugs which are available in the polymorphic form, and the polymorphs are going to affect, they have the different physicochemical properties, and furthermore they are going to affect the dissolution as well as the absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. Then after learning this module, you will be able to describe pH partition hypothesis which is proposed by the Brody et al. And furthermore, we will discuss its limitation. So after learning this module, you will be able to explain the effect of gastrointestinal pH and pK of drug on the absorption of a drug. So we will discuss this point in the pH partition hypothesis only. Then after learning this module, you will be able to discuss effect of lipophilicity on the absorption of a drug. To permeate the drug through the gastrointestinal membrane, the drug should have the sufficient lipophilicity. Then and then only it is going to cross the barrier. So how the lipophilicity is going to affect the absorption, we will discuss it. And last learning objective, that is after learning this module, you will be able to enumerate effect of stereochemical nature and stability of a drug on the absorption of the drug. So these are the learning objectives I have set for the today's session. So in the today's session, we will discuss the polymorphism and the amorphism, then lipophilicity and pH partition hypothesis, then the pK of the drug and gastrointestinal pH, drug stability and stereochemical nature of the drug. So let us move towards the polymorphism and amorphism, how it is going to affect the dissolution and the absorption of a drug from the gastrointestinal tract. As I have said that there are more than 60% of drugs which are available in the polymorphic form. So what is mean by the polymorphs? So when the substance exists in a more than one crystalline form, the different forms are designated as a polymorphs, and the phenomenon it is known as the polymorphism. So whatever the polymorphs are there, they have the same chemical structure. Its chemical structure, it is not a different. They are going to differ in their physical characteristics, physical properties. Which physical properties? The physical properties like the hardness, density, solubility, melting point, and the compression properties. As you know that for the oral route of administration, generally we are using the solid dosage form, and the compression behavior of the material, density of the material, these two parameters along with the hardness, these three parameters are very important one. If the polymorphs are going to differ in terms of their hardness, density, compressibility, then solubility and melting point, definitely they are going to affect the dissolution as well as the absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. There are various technologies which are available with us in order to detect these polymorphs. That is the optical crystallography, it is one of the method, then X-ray diffraction and the differential scanning calorimetry. So these are some of the techniques which are widely used to get the idea about the polymorphs. There are various types of the polymorphs are there, and very first one that is known as the enantiotropic polymorph, and second one that is known as the monotropic polymorph. When the drug, it is going to be changed reversibly from one form to the another form by changing the pressure or the temperature. In such cases, it is said to be the enantiotropic polymorph. And for example, the sulfur is the example. So by changing the pressure or temperature, it is one form of sulfur, it is going to be changed into the another form. And the second type that is known as the monotropic polymorph. So monotropic polymorphs are always unstable. For example, glyceryl stearates. On the basis of stability of the polymorphs, furthermore, the polymorphs are classified as the stable polymorph and the metastable polymorph. these both polymorphs, stable as well as the metastable polymorph, they are differ in terms of their physical properties. So the stable polymorph have the low energy state, then high melting point, and least aqueous solubility. These three things are very important related with the stable polymorph, and it is not possible to use the stable polymorph for making the dosage form because it is having a low energy, then the high melting point substances are not as such suitable, isn't it? They're not going to give the good permeability. Then it is having a least aqueous solubility. They are not going to be dissolved well into the gastrointestinal fluid. And the second type, that is a metastable polymorph. Metastable polymorph, they are having the high energy state, then the low melting point, and the high aqueous solubility. So they will show the good dissolution profile and good absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. For example, chloramphenicol palmitate A, B, C, D. From that, chloramphenicol palmitate B, it is a metastable form and which is active, which shows the good dissolution as well as the permeability from the gastrointestinal tract. As these metastable forms having an ability to convert from metastable to stable, isn't it? If conditions are not maintained, in presence of moisture or in presence of water, the metastable form of polymorph, it is having an ability to convert one metastable into the stable form. If we can maintain the dry condition of metastable polymorph, we can store it for the years also. So conversion of metastable form of the drug into the stable form can be prevented by some dehydrating agents such as a polyvinyl pyrrolidone, carboxymethyl cellulose, pectin, and the gelatin. So these agents are going to act as a dehydrating agent, and thereby they are going to stabilize the metastable form of the drug. So polymorphic crystals have the poor water solubility than the amorphous form. When we are comparing these polymorphic forms with the amorphous form, the polymorphic form have the least solubility than the, or low solubility than the amorphous form of the drug. According to internal structure, furthermore, it is classified into the crystalline and the amorphous form. Generally, crystalline form shows the polymorphs, isn't it? So whatever the crystalline form is there, it is having a internal crystal structure, whereas whatever the amorphous form is there, it doesn't have any internal crystal structure, isn't it? So whatever the amorphous form of the drug, it shows the good solubility, good dissolution profile than the crystalline form of the drug. It means the amorphous form, it is having a good aqueous solubility than the crystalline form of the drug. Why then amorphous form of the drug shows the good solubility? It is because of the energy needed to disruption of a molecule lactase. It is higher for the crystalline form than that needed for the amorphous solid. Whatever the energy required to disrupt the crystalline molecule, which is on the higher side than that of the amorphous form, and that's why the amorphous form of the drug, it shows the good solubility as well as the dissolution profile, isn't it? Means always we should select the amorphous form of the drug for making the dosage forms. For example, amorphous form of aceclofenac shows good solubility as well as the dissolution profile. Okay, so moving towards the polymorphs or the molecular adduct. So these are the crystalline form of the drug. Whatever the polymorphs or the molecular adducts are there, they're crystalline form of the drug, and the stoichiometric kind of the adducts where the solvent molecules are incorporated into the lactase of solid crystal are known as the solvate. And these solvates exist in the different crystalline form, and that is called as the pseudopolymorphs, and the phenomenon, it is known as the pseudopolymorphism. When the incorporated solvent it is a water, then it is said to be the hydrate. Whatever incorporated solvent is there, it is referred as a solvent of crystallization. And if the solvent it is a water, then the solvent it is known as the hydrate. So according to this, furthermore, we can classify the drugs as it's a anhydrous and the hydrous form. So definitely the anhydrous form of the drug shows the good solubility and dissolution rate than that of the hydrate form of the drug. So anhydrous form of a drug exhibits more solubility in the water in comparison to its hydrate, because hydrates are already in association with the water molecule, isn't it? So hydrates are already in interaction with the aqueous phase and thus has a low energy for crystal breakup in comparison to the anhydrate. So anhydrates are the thermodynamically on the high energy state for further interaction with the water molecule, and they are going to be dissolved well into the gastrointestinal fluid. For example, anhydrous form of ampicillin and theophylline shows good dissolution than its monohydrate and trihydrate form. So this is about the polymorphism and the amorphism. Let us move towards the lipophilicity and pH partition hypothesis and PK of the drug and gastrointestinal pH. It's a little difficult to understand the effect of gastrointestinal pH and the dissociation constant PK of the drug on the dissolution as well as the absorption of a drug from the gastrointestinal tract. Brody et al. Proposed the pH partition hypothesis in order to understand the absorption of a drug from the gastrointestinal tract. And according to Brody et al., the drug compounds molecular weight greater than 100 Dalton, they are going to be transported across the biomembrane or absorbed through the biomembrane by passive diffusion mechanism. And the whole process of absorption, it is governed by the dissociation constant of drug, that is the PK of drug, then the lipid solubility of unionized drug, and pH at the absorption site. So according to Brody et al., the drugs which are having a molecular weight greater than 100 Dalton, they are going to be absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract by the passive diffusion, and a whole absorption process, it is governed by the dissociation constant of drug, then lipid solubility of unionized drug, and pH at absorption site. Because the dissociation constant decides the ionization of drug in the specific pH of the gastrointestinal fluid, and the lipid solubility of drug molecule, which decides the permeability of drug through the membrane. As you know that the most of drugs are the weak electrolytes. They are either weak acids or weak bases, and their ionization depends on the pH of biological fluid. Maximum drugs which are available as a weak electrolytes, that is either it is a weak acid or weak base, and the ionization of drug, it is depend on the pH of the biological fluid. According to Brody et al., only unionized drug, it is going to be absorbed well. Unionized drug which is having a high lipid solubility. So unionized drug with a sufficient lipid solubility can cross the gastrointestinal barrier. There are certain assumptions which are made under the pH partition hypothesis. So whatever the pH partition hypothesis is there are certain assumptions are there. Very first assumption, that is the gastrointestinal tract is a simple lipoidal barrier. It is considered that whatever the gastrointestinal lining is there or membrane is there, it's a simple lipoidal barrier. Means if the drug is having a highest lipophilicity, it is going to cross the barrier easily. The larger fraction of unionized drug, there will be the faster absorption, because most of the drug, it is going to be crossed by the passive diffusion, and requirement for the passive diffusion is, that is the unionized drug. If it is having a high lipophilicity, they are going to be absorbed well. Greater the partition coefficient of unionized drug, there will be the better absorption. So these are the some assumptions which are made under the pH partition hypothesis. Moving towards the drug PK and the pH of the gastrointestinal tract. In order to understand the correlationship between the drug PK and the gastrointestinal pH, there is a need to use certain equations. So unionized fraction, whatever the unionized fraction is there, it is a function of pK of the drug and the pH of gastrointestinal fluid. The ionization of drug, it is going to be decided by the dissociation constant, and it is going to be decided by the pH of the gastrointestinal fluid. Low pK of the acidic drug, take an example of the acidic drug which is having a very low pK, say for example 1. So all these are the strong acids, isn't it? And this shows the greater ionization at all pH. If the drug is basic with a high pK value, such drugs are considered as a strong base, and they shows the greater ionization throughout the gastrointestinal tract. In order to understand the effect of pK of the drug and gastrointestinal pH, we have to suppose to use the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. As per the pH partition hypothesis, only unionized drug can cross the barrier, isn't it? So to calculate the ionized drug or the unionized drug, generally at a particular pH, generally we are using the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is useful to calculate the content of ionized form of drug in a fluid at a particular pH, and propose some equations for the weak acids as well as the weak bases to calculate the fraction of ionized and the unionized. So according to Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, for weak acids, pH is equal to pKa, that is a dissociation constant, plus log ionized drug divided by the unionized drug. When the fraction of ionized drug is equal to unionized drug, the pH is equal to pKa, isn't it? The percent of drug ionized, for the acid, it is calculated by using the equation. So percent drug ionized is equal to 10 raised to pH minus pK divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pH minus pK into the 100. And according to Shore et al., the therapeutic ratio for the weakly acidic drugs, that is Ra, can be calculated by using the formula, that is Ra is equal to C GIT divided by C plasma is equal to 1 plus 10 raised to pH GIT minus pK divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pH plasma minus pK. So these are the equations, first two equations which are proposed by the according to Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, and the third equation which is according to Shore et al. For weak bases, it is calculated by the fraction of unionized to ionized. It is calculated by using the formula pH is equal to pK plus log of unionized drug divided by the ionized drug, isn't it? And percent drug ionized, it can be calculated by using the formula, that is 10 raised to pK minus pH divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pK minus pH into 100. And therapeutic ratio, that is Rb for weak bases, it is calculated by using the formula CGIT to plasma is equal to 10 raised to pK minus pH GIT divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pK minus pH plasma. So these are some equations which are used to calculate the therapeutic ratio as well as the percent of drug which is ionized at a particular pH, particular gastrointestinal pH. Say for example, the stomach pH, it is less than 3. Say for example, duodenal pH, it is near about 5.5, or intestinal pH, say for example 6.8. So it is possible to calculate the ionized fraction as well as the unionized fractions according to the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So according to pH partition hypothesis, there are some generalizations are made by considering the dissociation constant, then the pH of the gastrointestinal fluid on the absorption. So very first one, that is for acidic drugs. So acidic drugs are furthermore classified as, to understand the things, as a very weak acids, moderately weak acids, and strong acids. As I have said that if the drug it is acidic in nature and it is having a pKa, less than 2.5, it is considered as a strong acid, or near to 1. We can say it as a strong acid. And such drugs are ionized at entire gastrointestinal pH, entire pH of the gastrointestinal tract. And these drugs are not going to be absorbed well. For example, disodium chromoglycate. If the drug is a very weak acid, which is having a pK value greater than 8, such drugs are unionized at all pH value throughout GIT from stomach to the colonic region. Such drugs are maximum amount of drug it is present in the unionized form, and they are going to be absorbed well throughout GIT, and the absorption of very weak acids independent on the gastrointestinal pH. For example, pentobarbital, hexobarbital, phenytoin, and ethosuximide. The last case, that is a moderately weak acid. If the acidic drugs are having a pKa ranging between 2.5 to 7.5, for such drugs, the absorption is pH dependent, and these drugs are absorbed well in the stomach, that is in the acidic pH, that is the pH is less than that of the pKa, that is in the acidic environment of the stomach. For example, aspirin, ibuprofen, and the phenylbutazone. Similarly, it is possible to make certain generalization to understand the absorption of basic drugs from the gastrointestinal tract. So in order to understand these things, furthermore, basic drugs are classified as a very weak basis, moderately weak basis, and the strong basis. For strong bases, as like strong acids, strong bases are having the pK value greater than 11, and such drugs are ionized in the entire pH of the gastrointestinal tract, and they are poorly absorbed. For example, guanidine. For very weak bases which are having a pK value less than 5, these are present as an unionized form, and absorption of such drugs which is independent of the gastrointestinal pH, and they are absorbed well throughout the gastrointestinal tract. For example, theophylline, caffeine, oxazepam, diazepam, and the nitrazepam. And the last case, which is the pH dependent, that is a moderately weak bases which are having a pK value between 5 to 11, and the absorption of these moderately weak bases, it is pH dependent, and they are going to be absorbed well in the intestine, that is the alkaline pH. For example, morphine, chloroquine, imipramine, and the amitriptyline. Hope all of you have understood how the acidic drugs and the basic drugs are going to be absorbed from throughout the GIT. Simply, if the drug is a strong acid or strong base, they are present in the ionized form, and they are not going to be absorbed well. If the drug is either very weak acid or very weak base, maximum amount of drug it is present in the unionized form throughout GIT, and they are going to be absorbed well. If the drug it is a moderately weak acid or moderately weak base, so absorption of such drug it is dependent on the pH, and the acidic drugs are going to be absorbed well into the stomach, and the basic drugs are going to be absorbed well into the small intestine. Okay, so moving towards the next part from the pH partition hypothesis. Moving towards the next important thing, the aqueous solubility of the drug. Initially also we have discussed something about the solubility and dissolution, but I felt that there is a need to understand again solubility of drug with respect to acidic drugs and the basic drugs. So the total aqueous solubility of drug it is the sum of the concentration of ionized and unionized drug in a solution at a particular pH. So when we are putting the drug into the any solution, it is having some specific pH. So the total solubility is equal to sum of the ionized plus unionized drug in the solution. According to pH partition hypothesis, only unionized drug it is going to be absorbed well. So whatever the ionized fraction is there, it is not as such useful for the absorption of drug, or it is not going to be absorbed by the passive diffusion. Furthermore, one new term came into the existence, that is intrinsic solubility. So it is the solubility of unionized form of drug that is known as the intrinsic solubility, and for acids it is denoted as SA, while for bases it is denoted as the SB. SA is the intrinsic solubility of the acids and SB is the intrinsic solubility of the bases. For acidic drugs, the equation is, that is total solubility of the drug, it is equal to intrinsic solubility of acid in bracket 1 plus 10 raised to pH minus pK bracket complete. And for basic drugs, the total solubility is equal to intrinsic solubility in bracket 1 plus 10 raised to pK minus pH. There are certain conclusions and generalizations by considering the aqueous solubility, pH and the pK. It is not weakly. So for acidic drugs, when pH it is greater than pK, the total solubility of drug, that is ionized plus unionized, it is greater than that of its intrinsic solubility, and the ionization of drug it is going to be increased. Say for example, if the drug it is having a pK 3 and pH for example 8, the maximum amount of drug it is present in the ionized form, isn't it? When pH is equal to pK, the total solubility, that is ionized plus unionized, is equal to 2SA. That is, there is a 50% ionization. And when pH it is less than that of the pK, the total solubility of drug is equal to SA. That is, drug exists as a unionized form. For basic drugs, when pH is greater than pK, ST is equal to SB and drug is exist as a unionized form. When pH is equal to pK, the second condition, the total solubility of basic drug is equal to 2SB and there is a 50% ionization. And when pH it is less than that of the pK of the drug, the total solubility is very high than that of the intrinsic solubility of base, that is SB, and maximum amount of drug it is present in the ionized form, that is ionization of drug it is going to be increased. So this is about the effect of pK and gastrointestinal pH on the absorption of a drug. The main thing is that the requirement is the drug should be present in the unionized form. Drug should have the sufficient lipophilicity. The lipophilicity it is given in terms of the partition coefficient. So what is mean by the partition coefficient? The partition coefficient it is the ratio of the concentration of substance in one medium or phase to the concentration in the second phase when the two concentrations are at equilibrium. That is known as the partition coefficient. With the help of this, it is possible to understand the lipophilicity. Maybe so for the optimum absorption of the drug should have the sufficient aqueous solubility in order to get dissolved into the gastrointestinal fluid, and it should have the sufficient lipophilicity so as to it get partitionized into the membrane and gets absorbed into the systemic circulation. Means there should be the perfect hydrophilic and lipophilic balance is required in the structure in order to get the optimum bioavailability. So according to the lipophilicity, furthermore, the drugs are classified as the rapid rate absorption depending on the partition coefficient, moderate rate absorption, and drug with a slow rate of absorption. The partition coefficient of drug, it is less than 0.002. Then such a drug shows the slow rate of absorption. For example, barbituric acid, only 5% of drug it is going to be absorbed. Then another drug, that is a sulfaguanidine, only 2% of drug it is going to be absorbed into the systemic circulation. Then moderate rate of absorption, drugs which are having a partition coefficient, that is a O by W 0.0022 to 0.03. For example, the drugs like aspirin, theophylline, and sulfanilamide, which shows the absorption in ranging between 21% to the 30%. And the rapid rate of absorption, the drugs which are having the partition coefficient between 0.12 to 100, such drugs are going to be absorbed well from the gastrointestinal tract. For example, thiopental, phenylbutazone, benzoic acid, and the salicylic acid, with the absorption 54% to the 67%. So this is about the lipophilicity. Moving towards the limitations of pH partition hypothesis. No doubt it is possible to get the idea about absorption of a drug. It is possible to correlate the ionization of the drug with respect to the absorption from the gastrointestinal tract along with the lipophilicity. There are certain drawbacks or the limitations to the pH partition hypothesis. That is very first point, that is the presence of virtual membrane pH. The second limitation, that is absorption of ionized drug, influence of surface area and residence time of drug, and the fourth point, that is the presence of aqueous unstirred diffusion layer. So very first limitation for the pH partition hypothesis, that is the presence of virtual membrane pH. As we have considered only the gastrointestinal fluid pH, isn't it? And we have proposed the, according to pH partition hypothesis, we have made the generalization, isn't it? So we are getting the graph for rate of drug absorption with respect to pH of the lumen. We see this is the actual in vitro graph, and in vivo situation, the graph gets shifted from left to right for acidic drug, and for basic drug, it is going to be shifted from right side to the left side. It indicates that the acidic drugs are going to be absorbed into the basic environment, as well as the basic drugs are also going to be absorbed into the acidic environment. Means there is a virtual membrane pH is present over there, and which is different than the luminal pH. So the virtual membrane pH, which determines the extent of drug ionization and the absorption of the drug, means actual pH of gastrointestinal fluid and the virtual membrane pH, it is a different, and that's why we are getting the differences or little shift for the acidic drugs from left to right, and for basic drug from left right to left for the absorption. So this is the absorption curve in order to understand the presence of virtual membrane pH. So this is the thing. Then the absorption of ionized drug. In the pH partition hypothesis, we have proposed that only the drug, it is going to be absorbed by the passive diffusion mechanism, and it should be present in the unionized form. By considering this graph, it indicates that the ionized drugs are also going to be absorbed well, isn't it? If the drug is ionic in nature and they are having the large lipophilic group, they are going to be absorbed by the passive diffusion. So this is the one possibility. And the other things are there. There is a presence of active transport mechanism is also there. Then ion pair transport is available, as well as the connective flow. So that's why there is a change in the absorption of the acidic drugs as well as the basic drug, or whatever shifting we are getting in the absorption curve. Moving towards the third limitation, that is the influence of surface area and the residence time. As you know that the stomach and the small intestine, which is responsible for the absorption of the acidic drugs as well as the basic drug. In the stomach, acidic drugs are going to be absorbed well, and in the intestine, basic drugs are going to be absorbed well. But when we are considering the area which is available for the absorption, as compared to stomach, the intestine is having a greater surface area, and both acidic as well as the basic drugs, they are going to be absorbed well into the intestine due to the large surface area as well as the residence of the drug into the intestine. In the stomach, only for 2 hours, only the formulation it is going to be stayed, and in the intestine, that is small intestine, it is approximately 5 to 8 hours. Then the last limitation, that is the presence of aqueous unstirred diffusion layer. According to pH partition hypothesis, we have assumed that the gastrointestinal barrier, it is a simple lipoidal barrier, and if the drug is having a sufficient lipophilicity, then it is going to be absorbed well. But actually, see here, see the figure. So this is the lipoidal biomembrane. This is the lipoidal biomembrane. This is the blood, and this is the aqueous unstirred layer, and this is the gastrointestinal fluid. It indicates that the drug should have the sufficient hydrophilicity in order to cross this aqueous unstirred diffusion layer. Then and then only it is going to be absorbed well. So these are the few limitations of the pH partition hypothesis, that is the presence of virtual membrane pH, absorption of ionized drug, influence of surface area and residence time of drug, and presence of aqueous unstirred diffusion layer. Moving towards the drug permeability and absorption. So the absorption of a drug, it is being expressed by the equation M, that is the amount of drug absorbed, that is equal to P effective, that is effective membrane permeability. A is the surface area available for the absorption, C is the apparent luminal drug, and T is the residence time of drug in the lumen. That is M is equal to P effective, A, C apparent, T residential, isn't it? So here the parameters which needs to be considered, the surface area available for the absorption, it is remains constant. Then the residence time of formulation also, it is going to be constant. So for effective or good permeability, there is a need to consider the two parameters, that is effective membrane permeability and apparent luminal drug concentration. And it is going to be affected by the parameters like the lipophilicity of the drug. If the drug is having a high lipophilicity, no doubt they are going to be absorbed well. Then the polarity of drug in terms of number of H bond acceptors and number of H bond donors, and the molecular size of the drug. Molecular size of the drug, it should be optimum, that is less than 500 Dalton. So there is a rule of 5 by Lipinski et al. And molecular weight of drug, always it should be less than 500 Dalton. Then lipophilicity of drug, it should be, there is a log P, it should be less than 5. Number of H bond acceptors, it should be less than 10. And number of H bond donors, it should be less than 5. If any of these two values are greater than specified above, that is, say for example, molecular weight of drug is 700 Dalton and log P value is greater than 5, then there is a significant problem in the oral absorption. So we have to suppose to follow this Lipinski rule of 5 in order to drug, it is going to be absorbed well from the gastrointestinal tract. Moving towards the next physicochemical parameters like drug stability and stereochemical nature of the drug. So the stereochemical nature of drug, almost more than 60% of drug which are available in the market, these are the chiral compounds, isn't it? Say for example, the enantiomers like R and S forms or D and L isomers. Maybe you have learned all these things in the medicinal chemistry, isn't it? And whatever these chiral molecules are there, they are differ in terms of their biotransformation, then their pharmacological activity, as well as the dose, along with their some physicochemical properties of the drug. The single enantiomer drug could be the superior to than its racemate, as the other enantiomer may cause the side effect. For example, the dextrodopa is highly toxic than that of the levodopa. Maybe all of you are aware about the levodopa, and which is widely used for the Parkinsonism. So this is about the stereochemical nature of the drug. Then the drug stability. There are 2 points are there which needs to be considered. That is the drug destabilization during shelf life. Suppose that we have prepared the dosage form and we have stored it, and during the storage period, there is a destabilization. Take example of aspirin. As if we have not stored the aspirin tablet well, what will happen? It is going to be degraded into the salicylic acid, isn't it? And furthermore, the absorption, dissolution, absorption, it is going to be hampered. And the second point, that is the gastrointestinal stability of drug. Whatever the drugs are there, if they are not stable in the gastrointestinal tract, as the stomach environment is acidic in nature, then small intestine, it's alkaline in nature. There are few drugs are there which are not stable in the stomach. There are few drugs are there which are not stable in the small intestine, and they are going to be degraded. So many enzymes are present, and such drugs are not going to be absorbed well from the gastrointestinal tract. So this is about the drug stability. Here which we have finished the physicochemical properties of drug which are going to affect the absorption of a drug from the gastrointestinal tract. So to summarize, in the today's session, we have discussed the effect of polymorphism and amorphism on dissolution and absorption. We have discussed the pH partition hypothesis along with its limitation. Furthermore, along with the pH partition hypothesis, we have discussed the effect of pH and pK of drug on the absorption of the drug. Furthermore, we have discussed the lipophilicity, effect of lipophilicity on the absorption of drug. Last point which we have discussed, there is the effect of stereochemical nature and stability on the absorption of the drug. So here which we have finished the physicochemical properties of the drug which are going to affect the absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. Thank you very much. Now